What's good, everybody? I'm Jędrek, he's Sodek, and today we are gonna talk all about the new Universes Beyond set Lord of the Rings and its impact in Modern. Let's go! Alrighty, so Lord of the Rings is, I think, the second Universes Beyond set that we have in Magic, but the first one that's legal anywhere relevant. Which means modern. We've had Warhammer before. Yeah, now and some secret lairs, like there was a Walking Dead secret lair and stuff. But yeah, Lord of the Rings is here. It will be legal on Modo in about 5 hours or so, give or take. So by the time you watch this video, it already will be a few days out. And yeah, first of all, let's share our overall impressions about the set. So Sodek, what do you think about it?
Yeah, like when Wizards decided to create yet another set that will go directly into Modern, players were super hyped about like another Modern Horizon set. Maybe not super hyped because some of them were like not that happy about it because like the previous Modern Horizons 1 and 2 had a huge impact on Modern. So players were kind of worried about how powerful the set will be, and it turned out to be not as impactful as everyone thought it will be. So we got a few good playable cards. Some of them will be added to existing decks. Others may be, who knows, but most likely not, will create new archetypes. So from my perspective, it's just a solid set. But like if these cards were printed in the regular set, I wouldn't say they are overpowered by any means. So yeah, that's a solid set of cards, and like only time will tell if personally I am wrong about it or not. But I wish that the set was a bit more powerful. Like I feel that like it like from modern perspective, it misses like 2 or 3 cards that would be like super good in the existing sets, because now we got three archetypes that got upgrades. 4 if we also count like cards that may be quite good. Like we'll talk about it later more. But like compared to, for example, Modern Horizons 2, I don't feel we have that many commons and uncommons that will do tiny like small upgrades to the existing ones.
Like Unholy Heat, for example.
Yes, like Unholy Heat maybe wasn't that
Yeah,
tiny, but
I'm joking.
But yeah, like I miss the impactful commons here. Like the cards that are good are designed to be good in Modern, and they were printed, in my opinion, specifically to upgrade certain strategies, and that's a good thing.
It seems like we have much more persist than Unholy Heats in this set.
Yes. Oh, that's a really good, really good way to say that.
Basically. Okay, as far as I go, Lord of the Rings has a very special place in my heart. There are few things I love in life as much as Magic, and Lord of the Rings might be one of those that I love even more than Magic, and have been forever, basically. So when I heard that they announced a set that's a crossover with Lord of the Rings, and even more, it's legal in Modern, my favorite format. I was excited, but I also had some doubts. In general, I'm a fairly optimistic person, and I hope that those upsides will trump over any downsides. And for me, it mostly had, like, don't get me wrong, this set is weaker than we thought it would be, because they actually said in the videos or weekly MTG or however you want to call those materials that this is Modern Horizons 3. Like they said that at the very beginning, they said that this set takes place of Modern Horizons 3. And even if they meant a release schedule place, which is like where you would naturally get another Modern Horizon set, and not the power level, they framed it in a way that gave us hope that this set will be very strong, very impactful. And I personally, I spoke about it very many times, I enjoy having rotation in Modern every 2 years or so. I like that Modern Horizon sets are as powerful as they are, because, of course, like financial matters aside and buying a whole new card and then validating a bunch of them, I think this breath of fresh air is welcome in the format. So I am kind of disappointed that the set is not as... It's much closer to regular set than to Horizon set in power. From the like Lord of the Rings fan perspective and the lore, I think it's very nice. A lot of great homages, a lot of great representations on cards, Easter eggs for fans that are more dedicated. For example, I think my favorite one is Shadowfax. You know that one, Sadek, or not?
No, like I'm not very deep into...
Okay, so there is Shadowfax, the White Red horse legend, who is like a descendant of a long line of like godlike horses almost. And in film, Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf, says when they are going from Rohan to Minas Tirith, he says, "Come on, Shadowfax, show us the meaning of haste." And on the Shadowfax card, you have the reminder text for haste for the first time, like forever, basically. And it literally shows you the meaning of haste. So I think it's really, really funny. When I saw it, it was it was pretty great. But in general, I like the set lore-wise. I think the alternate treatment of like the ring frames, which is something I'm not usually super into, like alternative versions of cards and stuff like that. I think they are very nice. The alternative frame, Witch King of Angmar, is one of the coolest looking cards I've ever seen in Magic. And
I also really like the fact that you can collect the
the panoramas.
That's a super cool thing. I wish like we'll see more of this. In the future. I
just think that from the like crossover lore merging of two fan base perspective, I think it's a slam dunk. It's a very cool set. But yeah, like as a Magic player, I just expected a bit more of this. So let's start the discussions about certain cards with discussing something that's not a card at all, and that's the ring tempts you mechanic. Because some people still don't know what it exactly does.
I read like maybe not everything. I checked the sources about it, and I'm still not sure about how exactly it works.
Okay, I don't have it on my screen, so I might make a mistake or two, but I'm gonna freestyle it. So how the ring tempts you works? Whenever ring tempts you, you choose one of your creature to be a ring bearer, and you can have one ring bearer at a time. Ring tempts you even if you don't have a ring bearer to choose, so like it advances, and the ring bearer that you get, that you choose, gets new abilities like cumulative in a cumulative fashion. That's what I'm trying to say. It's cumulative is not a very easy word to say, apparently. True. I don't know why. So, for example, when the ring tempts you for the first time, you choose a ring bearer if you have a creature, and it gets the first ability. If you get tempted second time, you can choose the same creature or choose a different one, and it will have both of the abilities. But the previous one, if you choose the different creatures, will have none of them. I don't know if you have to choose. I think you have to choose if you have a creature.
You always have to choose a creature, even if you have only one. So
yes,
because it triggers things.
Yep, I know it triggers if you don't have a creature, and I think if you have a creature, if you have something to choose, you have to choose it. So the first one is this: the ring bearer is legendary, which has quite hilarious ramifications in Pauper, I think. Because Cast Down is one of the most played removal spells in Pauper, and you can make it legendary in response to Cast Down, potentially. Because Cast Down is essentially terminate, because there are no legendary creatures on common, and now you can have legendary creatures in Pauper, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, the Ring Bearer is legendary, and it can't be blocked by creatures with higher power than it. Sodek, do you know how the keyword that works exactly the same way was called? It was in one set, and it was Shadows over Innistrad. Maybe in the whole block, but it was in Shadows over Innistrad, definitely. No. It was called Skulk.
OMG, like I hated Skulk so much, I didn't understand it at all. Like every time I saw Skulk, I had to read
That's
it. And
Skulk.
like,
yeah, that is Skulk, but they didn't want to use this word, probably rightfully so. Then the second one is whenever your Ring Bearer attacks, you may draw a card, and if you do, you discard a card. It might not be optional. I think it is optional.
Attacks, draw a card, and discard a card.
It's not optional. Okay, so you have to do that. Then the third one is whenever your Ring Bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at the end of combat, I think.
Nice. Like this is the questionable thing for me. Like if your creatures can be blocked by creatures with greater power, what's the reason to add this third ability?
To incentivize even further from blocking, I think. Like blocking, like assume you have a 2/2 and your opponent has a 0/4, and it can block that 0/4. 0/4 can block 2/2 indefinitely, unless you have something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But, like maybe I wish like these first two abilities are cool, but the last two I feel that they could be.
I think this one is pretty strong. I think the last one is the weakest one, and the last one is whenever your Ring Bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So Sodek is obviously delighted that it says each opponent, as always.
I would love to see deals 3 damage to any target, for example.
That would be very strong, and I think it would be nice to be strong. Maybe I'm saying that it would be nice to be strong, but that kind of gets us to my other point that this might be a very strong mechanic, but it might not be very strong. Like I think historically those type of mechanics like Monarch and Initiative were very, very underrated at first. And while the Ring Tempts You mechanic is weaker because of the fact that when you get Initiative, you get the effect every upkeep until your opponent does something about it. And with Ring Tempts You have to get tempted multiple times and you have to actually work for it, which makes it weaker. But it's still a free resource. Let's call it.
Like the fact that once the ring is an emblem, yes. So if you get, for example, to the third chapter, to the ability, it stays forever. So your every creature will be better than it is. So I feel in like resource-oriented games, it would be a super powerful thing to do. Although, like I feel that the designers didn't want to push it too hard, and like that's why these like last abilities aren't that.
Yeah. So there are certain cards that might see some play if the Ring Tempts You mechanic is strong, that are not super impactful otherwise. I think the biggest one is Birthday Escape, which is a sorcery for 1 blue, draw a card, then the Ring Tempts You, which is like the lowest opportunity cost you can have basically on a card. It costs 1 mana and it replaces itself. So like it's very easy and convenient to use because it's draw a card, then the Ring Tempts You. So if the Ring Tempts You part is nice, like let's say it's as strong, you can see this Ring Tempts You part being as strong as Scry to Preordain, for example. Like maybe it is that strong, just for a comparable card that's on the ban list. I'm not saying it will be, but it might be. There's also Ranger's Firebrand, which is sorcery speed shock. I think this one is significantly worse than the cantrip. And then there is the enchantment that costs 2 mana, 1 and a black. It's called Call of the Ring. And at the beginning of our upkeep, Ring Tempts You, and whenever you choose a Ring Bearer, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, then you draw a card. So it's kind of like Phyrexian Arena-ish type of design, which, once again, it probably won't see any play, but if it does, like if ring tempts you is a strong enough incentive, then I can see this being like a playable card.
I feel that the mechanic would be good enough for Pioneer, but not for Modern.
That's the. I think that's
maybe
the.
the thing.
Yeah, I think that's the statement you will hear from us many times during this video. It will be cool. It will be good or very good in Pioneer, but in Modern it might be just a bit too lacking. Okay.
Yeah, like
so,
I feel that maybe in Pauper, this birthday escape can be a thing. To be honest.
Yeah, I can. I can see it being okay. Definitely.
It can be a nice way, since creatures, although like nowadays it's not that easy. Like creatures are more or less vanilla or have some ETBs. So once you start attacking and it's unblockable, for example, you pack it into Muldrifter and like opponents Muldrifters can block. It's maybe good, but
that's less good than you make your Fairy Seer unblockable and then you ninjutsu your ninja. I think in this deck, being unblockable actually is a pretty huge deal. So maybe there. Who knows?
Maybe.
Okay. So we are still on the topic of ring. So let's start with the card that has probably the higher ceiling in the entire set. And if it's good, it's likely to be very, very good. And that's the One Ring. So that's an artifact for 4 mana. It's legendary, of course. It has indestructible. And whenever it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you get protection from everything until your next turn. So it is essentially something between a fog and a time walk. Kinda. You can get thought seized as well. You can get attacked, of course. Targeted with any burn spells. You are immune to Archon of Cruelty triggers. A bunch of things in general that are kind of harmful. You can get griefed and stuff like that. So then there is the triggered ability that in your upkeep you lose life equal to the number of however the counters on this thing are called.
Burden counters.
Burden counters. That makes a lot of sense. So you use 1 life for each of those counters, and it has a tapped ability, put a burden counter on it, then you draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. So how it plays out is you play it for 4 mana, you get protection from everything until your next turn, and then in the first turn cycle, after you untap with it, it will draw you 3 cards and lose 1 life, and grant a turn of invulnerability. So a fair amount of value. And
if you have any ways to either win somewhat quickly or gain life, the burden counter thing,
or reset it in some sort. Like for example, the Fairy Time Raveler can bounce it and then you play it again. Or you might even. I saw some people trying to legend rule it, and then they have something like Academy Ruins in their deck, or Buried Ruin, or another way to rebuy it. So I think that if this card is good, it can see play in 2 most likely shells, in my opinion, for now, are colorless Tron-ish things, either more green stock Tron, or some sort of colorless Prison Tron deck of that sort. And the other one is as a finisher in a control deck. I can see playing One Ring instead of Teferi or Jace in Blue-White Control, for example.
I'm too worried about the life loss there.
No, you have Teferi Time Raveler to bounce it if you want to.
Okay. I'm also I saw some tweets that were players were telling that the card is super strong and it will be good just in mid-range decks. Generally speaking, I feel that the card is good. Will be good in decks that can cheat on mana in one way or another. It doesn't matter if it's a Tron Land or Arbor Elf plus Utopia Sprawl. As long as you can play One Ring a turn earlier, or even with Amulet and Bounce Lands. If you can play One Ring earlier, it will be good for you. Second, in my opinion, you need to be able to either reset it or kill someone quickly. Because like I saw like red green Ponza decks with the One Ring, this with Arbor Elf, Utopia Sprawl, and the Karn package. It looked kind of okay, to be honest. And
it sounds okay, and
yeah,
like
like
I
especially like the decks that can kill somewhat quickly on the, like in mid game. Like Tron is ideal example of that. Like if you need something to stay alive and win in the late game, the One Ring is a great tool to use. So
and it works very well with Wurmcoil Engine because you just get your life back and yeah. But speaking to your point before about playing it in the mid-range shells, like I can see Ring being an okay card to sideboard in against, for I don't know, in Scam Mirror or Scam V Merktide, something like that. Just have a Ring in your side, or even like against Scam or Merktide against Blue White, for example. You just play your Ring, you draw 3 cards off of it, which is a lot of cards to draw, like 3 extra cards, and then sure you will lose 2 extra life every turn, but those cards will help you find Merktide Regent or your Fury or whatever, and then ideally if you have a way to get rid of the Ring, which I don't think there are many that you can play, you can like Otawara your own Ring.
Undestructible on the card is tricky.
Yeah, but it's like more like sack outlets, right? Like maybe there is like a deck that's like mid-rangey black deck that plays Deadly Dispute and plays the Ring. Like Deadly Dispute on turn 2 ramps you to the Ring. You can play it on turn 3. Then you use it like you lose 3 life, you draw 6 cards off of it, and then you Deadly Dispute it.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I also like the fact of like maybe Eldrazi Tron, like with One Ring and Karn, there are enough 4 mana payoffs to justify playing something like Milestone maybe, just to cast it on turn 3 more often.
How about Affinity? You have the 1 mana artifact, Springleaf Drum. You can ramp it with Springleaf Drum. You can draw a lot of cards to draw into your Affinity payoffs to kill quick, and then it's a very good shell to play Deadly Dispute, just like in Pauper. You can play Deadly Dispute, you can play the other one, Reckoner Bargain, which even gets you back life.
Yeah, that can be a bit too much in my opinion, but
it might be, but
I'm thinking about when Affinity loses, and it loses when you can't start your engine at all. If your early creatures dies, if you don't have mana
casting
ramp,
this for 4 mana is not that hard, I think, compared to
Monitor for 7.
for the Monitor for 7, or maybe if that not that, maybe something else like artifact wise, like because you kind of want to have, like I'm just thinking about Deadly Dispute with One Ring, maybe Top Tier Foundry, you get your life back. You can sacrifice. You can actually sacrifice One Ring to Top Tier Foundry.
Okay, Top Tier Foundry sounds cool, to be honest. Okay, the really good thing is that the One Ring cost 4, not 3 mana, because like if it costed 3 mana, it would like turn 3 Karn into One Ring from the sideboard. Would be a horrible gameplay.
Like
because
it would be, but also your Planeswalkers can die when you have protection from everything. Which is
that's
like
true.
That's the part that makes Planeswalkers into a bit more liability, I think, with the Ring, that you can just kill their Planeswalkers while they are invulnerable.
Yeah, on the other hand, like if you rely on card more, then you grab the One Ring only when it's good for you. So having this flexibility is a good thing.
Oh, of course.
So overall, the card has a potential. In my opinion, it's the most powerful card in the set, mostly because other cards are quite narrow in terms of when they can be played, while the One Ring can be added into more than one strategy. And like it's cool to see something like, okay, it's wild to say, but it's cool to see something that will make the Tron better, because the deck was around for many years, and after Modern Horizons 2 fell off a bit. So So having like more tools to make the deck better is
Yep.
good
And
thing to see.
another point that people were kind of a bit worried about the set before it released was that how will you feel about playing with Frodo forever in Modern or something like that? Like, how do you feel about cards that are tied to the universe of Lord of the Rings to be competitively viable basically forever? And to that I say I don't give a fuck. I love Lord of the Rings and I'm fine casting One Ring. Also, One Ring is a card that can be reprinted in a different set. Like many worlds can have their own One Ring. So screw haters. I just love it. I just love it. Okay, shall we move to another card?
Yes.
So the second card on our list is Delighted Halfling. And it's a 1 mana creature that's 1 power, 2 toughness, imported against Renski, of course. And it has 2 different mana abilities. The first one is add colorless to your mana pool, which helps you cast those Matter Reshapers in Eldrazi. And the other one is add mana of any color to your mana pool. You can spend it only for legendary spells or legendary permanents. Legendary cards, spells. And those spells can't be countered. So the deck that obviously comes to mind when you think about Delighted Halfling is Yawgmoth. Because Yawgmoth is essentially a mono green deck splashing for a double black legend. So like the fact that you get only colorless mana for your non-legendary spells is not that big of a deal, because you often have those green mana lying around. Of course, you can't go like maybe multiple elves or something like that. But
Strangled Guys is a problem.
Strangled Guys is a problem, but it's also a 2-drop. So like all your lands are basically, aside from one swamp, all your lands are green. So you will just cast it off of your 2 lands. Or you can go like, I don't know, you can go Halfling on 1, on 2, use it for colorless, play Wall of Roots, add green, play Strangled Guys. You have a lot of ways to filter that green mana. So your most restrictive green spell probably on cost is Chord of Calling, and you can just convoke it to get green mana for Chord of Calling. So overall, it's a very good both mana fixer and something that survives Ren and 6, while giving you this very nice piece of like another layer of protection against an axis of cards that are usually the most effective at stopping Yawgmoth, because if they just remove your Yawgmoth with a like Unholy Hit or whatever, you can do your stuff in response, and even if you don't combo, you still draw a fair amount of cards. But if they have counterspell for it, well, then you are now left to hang out and dry, and your deck is not very good if it doesn't have Yawgmoth. It's just a bunch of underpowered creatures. So you really need that large card to resolve. Also, Grease to some extent can be this large card as well, and very conveniently, Grease is also legendary, so you also make Grease uncounterable, even though everybody knows it's already uncounterable because you can't spell pierce it, which is the biggest scam ever. But yeah, I think this card will be very nice in Yawgmoth, especially since Yawgmoth players struggled with their last few dorks, right? Like Zerg even tried out Arboreal Grazers and Golgari Rot Farm because the situation on Mana Dork's market wasn't that great for him. So
like the Ren and 6 issue is around, and like players were trying everything that has more than 1 toughness, and I feel that Halfling like fits that. Like it's obviously better than Grazer in terms of like how much you need to sacrifice to make it work, because Halfling just works.
Well, Grazer is Mox Diamond, so I don't know if you are correct, but yeah.
If you have lands in hand, yes. If you don't, then
well, Mox Diamond also needs lands in hand.
True.
It's the exact same card. Arboreal Grazer is Mox Diamond.
Even better because you can block with it. So
it's Mox Diamond and removal and pacifism on Ragavan in one card. Just broken.
Why we are not playing 4?
Just broken. Okay.
Do you feel that Halfling can be played in any other decks other than Yawgmoth?
Maybe
there
some
anything
bullshit decks like, I don't know, maybe Heliod, I don't know. Some like, I think that Yawgmoth is the sole member of the creature combo group of decks that doesn't suck. And we'll talk about it later on with some cards on the list. But in general, I don't have very high hopes for any creature combo decks that aren't Yawgmoth. So yeah, maybe it's play, but it won't be powerful enough to like warrant an archetype all on its own. Okay, next up we have Forge Anew, which is a card that a bunch of people were very high on for obviously Hammer. And it's a 3 mana enchantment, 2 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, you may return 1 target equipment from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then once per turn, you may pay... You can equip at instant cost, and once per turn, you may pay 0 instead of your equip cost. Is that correct?
As long as if it's your turn, you may activate equip abilities, so basically the same, and you may pay 0. So
but you may pay 0 once per turn. It's not like the first one. You can do it.
You may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate.
First equip. Okay. Okay.
So like Hammer decks were trying to fit more than 8 ways to cheat Hammer into the creature. The Sigarda Save and Pure Sea Paladin are like will be in the deck no matter what, and like people are trying like Core Outfitter, like what else? Like there was one more effect.
There was something else. Yeah, that's true.
But it was so bad that we don't remember. Yeah, Kemba. Like, from the new set, people were trying to play more cards, and it was awful. So Forge Anew makes the deck more streamlined,
and also more resilient with the first ability.
Yeah, that's true. But also, the effect will shine in post-sideboard games versus, for example, Force of Vigor
or explosives. Those type of effects.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
I think it's very nice against explosives, especially because, or like Force of Vigor in the same venue, basically like. If your opponent destroys both Sigarda's 8 and Colossus Hammer, this is essentially Sigarda's 8 and Colossus Hammer in one card. Because you get back your hammer and then you equip it for 0. So it's 2 for the price of 1. I think that line will be very strong. And yeah, just a good card for a good deck.
Yeah, and like we said, like it will fit basically only to this deck and anything else. The thing is the existence of Forge Anew will force Hammer players to rebuild the deck a bit. For instance, with Forge Anew, like I assume people will start playing 2 copies, and like playing more of them, having like 11 or 12 of these re-equip effects may be too much. So like 2 copies seems like a sweet
especially
spot.
because you very often don't want second copy.
Yes.
Of this effect.
The first copy is good. The second will only have trigger and maybe just 1 more. Or like you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first ability. If you have
it doesn't stack. No, it doesn't stack.
So
that's even worse. Yeah. I think the only of these equippers that you want in multiples is probably like that you really want in multiples is Pure Steel. Partially because the card draw stacks, but also because it's the easiest one to remove. Like it's fairly often they will kill your Pure Steel, so having the backup Pure Steel is very nice, and it's not very often that they will deal with your Forge Anew.
Yeah, and like still, even if you play only 2 copies, you can just technically you can just add it to the deck and hope that's enough. I saw players adding more 0 mana creatures and more Springleaf drums. Like some people were playing 4 drums already, but I feel that with Forge Anew, the 4 drums will be the default way to go. And I can also see maybe the philosophy of sideboarding changed a bit. For instance, I don't see that blacksmith skills will be as played with Forge Anew around, because like if Forge Anew can reanimate hammer and equip it, then it's not like the effect of protecting one card is not as needed as it was before. Yeah.
Okay.
So we see how it goes. Like the card is obviously good in hammer.
Yeah, like I think that both Halfling and Forge Anew are like safe cards for good archetypes, and you will most likely see them in some capacity in those decks. While the One Ring is a card that has higher floor and higher ceiling than both of those. And those are like I think the 3 cards that are most likely to impact the format.
There's also one, maybe not one card, but like the group of cards that again will have an impact on only one deck, but it can make it can help make the deck a bit better.
Okay, what are you talking about, Sadek?
About cyclers, the Generous End and Olive Hound.
Oliphant, Sodek.
Oliphant.
For fuck's sake.
I was super close. Okay.
And
cards are
another one.
And like there's also a black one.
Troll of Casa de Doom.
Thank you. Like I would even say that this like this so easy. Like the black one is not as important. I will talk about it later. The most important one
is the blue one, of course.
I don't know who designed this set, to be honest, but like the fact that
Andrew Brown definitely.
For sure.
He's responsible for everything that's wrong with Magic forever.
Yeah. Even
sorry, Andrew. If you are watching this for some reason, we don't hate you or anything, but I just you are the first one to come to mind. Sorry.
But Veil of Summer for 1 mana is Andrew's Brown idea.
Okay, right? We hate you. Sorry.
Yeah, easy. So like at first we saw the Mountain Cycler, then we saw Forest Cycler, Black Cycler. Like one white one is useless, and like when they were
useless,
it's a 3/3 for like
6 mana.
Yeah, with flying and irrelevant first strike, so doesn't matter.
Oh, let's see how useless it will be when you will get smacked by it at the Pro Tour in Limited.
Okay.
Oh wait,
in Limited?
Oh wait, you're not going to the Pro Tour.
You too.
Yes, I know. That doesn't matter.
Okay. When they like the spoilers were going, the last missing cycler was a blue one, and everyone was okay. This will be super huge, super impactful for living, etc. And the last day of the spoilers, they showed Lorien revealed.
It's an instant, yeah, or sorcery, yeah.
Sorcery even. So it was super disappointing, but the Forest Cycler and the Mountain Cycler are, in my opinion, good enough to have an impact. Why? The first and most important thing is grabbing Forest is quite good in the deck because it makes you not as soft to Blood as you were before. It's also quite important to know that Forest Cycler can grab you a forest card, not a basic forest. So it can.
I have very important question, Sodek, for you.
Yeah.
Is this the Stomping Ground the time? Do you want to play Stomping Ground?
I want to say that like
or Ketria Triumph, I guess.
I think Stomping Ground is better.
Ground's better, but like both are kind of shitty, but in a different way.
I don't feel it's that shitty because if you like, I still don't know how many cyclers will be the good number. I saw a crazy list with like 14 lands, 8 cyclers. Yeah, Judidion.
Of course, a bit unglued. Yes, I'm aware of that. Aware of unglued lists like that.
Yeah, it was kind of ambitious, in my opinion. But the fact that the mountain and forest cycling costs gray mana, not the colored one, means that you can add more non-blue lands to the deck because you will be able to spend this mana in earlier turns. So that's a world where I can see playing Stomping Ground, for example, or more basics, or finally Boseju without cringing when I'm drawing it naturally. and have to play it as a land. So
Or Sunken Ruins.
Or Sunken Ruins, who knows? Overall, and obviously the bodies, like 5/7 reach that creates a food token. Yes, or
That's a nice body.
6
Remember playing the 5/6 spider with reach?
for
The Jungle Weaver?
It's cycled for 2 mana. It was
Yes,
like,
it's just
it was unbeatable, to be honest. Like nothing could kill it.
miles
Only
better.
Tarmogoyf.
Miles
Yeah.
better.
And this is better. And the red one has trample. It's 6/4 and gives your if it attacks, it gives another creature +2/+0 and trample. So it makes your wake of waves even better. The question is, do you need this type of effects? Generally speaking, I can see this trigger to be relevant in post-sideboard games when, for example, you play versus soft Gravehate. For example, opponent has Relic and you cycle 1 or 2 creatures and have to win with that. And in these scenarios, the extra point of fire and trample may matter. Overall, I feel the cyclers will make the living end deck a bit better. The deck will not be that as soft to Blood Moon as it was before, but it won't change the overall positioning of the deck. It's not something that, like, for example, Shaldress Agent was for the deck. It will be just a tiny upgrade, like typical, compared to Fortune of the Right Halfling. Just a solid card for one archetype.
Do you know the other name for Oliphaunts?
No.
It's Mumakil. Oliphant was the name that hobbits used. And maybe all Western world, but I think only hobbits. I'm not 100%. Mumakil was the name in the language of Haradrim, if I'm correct, which were the people writing the Mumakil.
Cool.
Very cool. I'm like 90% sure what I said was true. So if I'm mistaken by some chance, please don't roast me in the comments too much because my ego will shatter. Okay. Let's go to the next card on the list, which is a card that will probably have much more impact on older formats, but it might see a fair amount of play in modern as well, and that's Orcish Bowmasters. So it's a 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 1/1 with flash, and whenever it enters the battlefield or an opponent draws a card that's not the first card they draw in every of their draw steps, you deal 1 damage to any target and amass Orcs 1. So this might be the first card that's more punishing against Ragavan on turn 2 than Renin 6. Like, you never attack with this Ragavan or with any other Ragavan forever, basically. Like, with Renin 6, you at least had this, like, okay, I play Ragavan, you play Renin 6, ping it, I dash another Ragavan, kill your Renin 6. Nothing like that here. Nothing like that here. And also, I think this card is pretty good. If there's a deck that wants this type of like another 2-drop, it doesn't pressure all that well by itself. But it grows fairly quickly. It clocks better fairly quickly. Like it needs 1 additional trigger to be kind of decent, I think. To be like 3 power total.
Oh, gee. I feel the card is like, it will be surprisingly relevant in random situations.
I think the situation that it will be the most relevant is actually creativity. Yes. It's a card that stops there. Like against many decks, your plan is to just make dwarves and count on opponent dealing with your dwarves with real cards. And this takes care of 3 dwarves by itself. You ping 1, and then you trade with 2 of them. And then if they draw additional card, well, your army is 2/2, and now they can't do anything about it, really. And like, imagine that you are playing this, and then what? They just can't loot off of Fable, or you kill their. If they draw 2 with Fable, you kill their Goblin Shaman and make a 2/2, or like additional 2 power on their army. Like, I think the biggest problem for this card is that there isn't really a deck that wants to play it. More so than
Practice Scam instead
Scam might be a deck that you played it instead of like Voidwalker or some split of that in Voidwalker. I've played the Blue-Black Shadow deck recently, and I think it would be a good fit there as well. Also feels like, is it good against Yawgmoth? You just ping their things when they draw? Well, they will just kill it with first Yawgmoth trigger, but still.
Yeah, not that good.
But you at least ping something.
Overall, like Orcish Bowmasters look much better in older formats.
In response to Brainstorm, just
Yes, yeah. If opponent plays Brainstorm, play Bowmasters, and you laugh at them. It's also good in Commander for obvious reasons, but like I can see it be much more impactful in Legacy than in Modern, because Modern is not about drawing as many cards.
Yeah, like Legacy. I think it's a very similar issue to Sheoldred. Sheoldred is a card that's good, like very playable in basically every format of Constructed other than Modern.
True.
And I think that Bowmasters is a similar type of card where it doesn't have Brainstorm or Treasure Cruise or this type of things that really can be hosted by Bowmasters. But I still think it will be the card that sees some amount of play. I think that the problem of black decks, to some extent, was how not great they are against Ragavan. And because you only had Fatal Push. And one of the things I liked about Shadow was that Dismember is a card that plays well in the Shadow strategy and also another answer to Ragavan. And with this, you get even more ways to do something against Ragavan, and not even just trade with it, actually get a valuable exchange for you. Because Murktide is exactly the type of deck that can't really... Like, Murktide is the type of deck that often gets their ass handed by those dwarf tokens that they have to trade real cards with. And this is like 2 dwarf tokens, essentially.
Okay, wild idea. Orcish Bowmasters in Yawgmoth.
I might be okay.
I was thinking about the deck that wants that will make use of this Amas Orcs ability, because you from one card you get 2 bodies, which is like surprisingly good. And if you sacrifice the creature
to the dispute and then you play 1 ring.
What? that feels cool. So maybe there's a deck that may use this repetitive Amas nicely. Yawgmoth feels quite natural to it. Also, maybe decks with Mayhem Devil can be a bit better.
Yeah, maybe some sort of sacrifice deck.
Yeah, or Asmo decks.
Okay.
We'll see. Like the card has
definitely
has the potential to
a good amount of potential. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next card on the list, which is Sauron's Ransom. It's an instant for 1 blue-black, and target opponent look at top 4 cards of your library, and then they separate it into a face down and face up pile. You choose the one that goes into your hand, the other one goes to your graveyard. Have I forgotten about something, Sadek?
I can't find it yet, so I assume.
Yeah, and then the ring tempts you. That was the joke.
Okay.
So
ring tempts you.
Yeah. So especially if like ring tempts you is good. Like if ring tempts you end up being worth like half a card or something like this, this might be a pretty decent card. So we've seen like the Atraxa Reanimator decks playing Shadow Prophecy. This is a fairly similar card to Shadow Prophecy in terms of for 3 mana you get 2 cards and then you fill your graveyard with it. It offers you less selection at what you've put into your graveyard, but also it works well without domain. And I think the deck that I'm looking forward to the most with this card is, well, once again, the Blue-Black Shadow deck that I've played. Which I thought that the deck was good, and it was like doing things that were kind of meaningfully different than what Murktide was doing, in terms of you have 8 creatures that are really large and kill your opponent very fast. And you got Stubborn Denial, which is a very good card if you can reliably turn it on. And you have Thoughtsis. And if you are playing a combo deck against Thoughtsis Stubborn Denial deck, it's not very good for you. It's not very good for you because you will just get stomped by it so often. And the card that I missed the most was actually Expressive Iteration. Like, this was the deck that felt like it can run out of gas somewhat quickly, even with 4 Archmage's Charms. You only get 4 Divinations. You can play something like Night's Whispers. Like, I don't think Night Whispers is that terrible, especially when you want to lose life to some extent. But I think Sauron's Ransom play much better into I'm a 4 Archmage's Charm for counterspell, some amount of Drown in the Locks and Stubborn Denial deck, which has a lot of counter magic. So you can hold up your counter magic, and if they don't cast anything into it, well, then you cast Sauron Ransom in the end step. So I'm kind of looking at this sort of blue-black, like control-ish, tempo-y, however you want to slice it deck. It might be Shadow, it might be just Merktide Regents and Snapcaster Mages. I can see that also being okay. Snapcaster Mage is probably one of the best ring bearers you can play, for all it's worth, if the mechanic is good.
Okay.
So also it fills your graveyard, so it might allow you to play more than 4 Delve creatures, because other problem I had with Shadow was having like two threats too few. I would like to play like 2 Tassigurs or 2 Germak Anglers alongside those 4 Merktide Regents, especially given the fact that neither Germak Angler or Tassigur cares about what you delve away with it. So you can just delve all those Street Wraiths. You have like 11 Fetchlands in your deck. Can probably play Bubble if you want to. So I can see something more close to... You remember the first PT you can play Tassigur and Germak Angler, PT Fade Reforged? Where Patrick Chapin played this absolutely horrendous Esper Delve deck. Maybe you can build something like that, but good.
Oh, that's a challenge in my opinion. Like,
you just play a lot of Delve creatures, Stubborn Denial, because it's a very, 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 very good card if you can reliably turn it on. Yeah. So who knows?
Yeah, overall, I'm not that high on the card because after all, it's a 3 mana draw 2. Maybe in Archon Persis decks, there's a chance it will be good there. We'll see.
Yeah, like I think for you to be really excited about this card, you need the graveyard filling part of the card to be important. Like, it is better than 2 mana draw 2 or 3 mana draw 2. You also look at, like, you dig 4 cards deep. Sure, you only see 2 of those cards, or like half of them, roughly.
But if you don't like the 2 very...
Yeah, but if you are looking for something, like if you are looking for something specific, then you can just take what you want. Like, you can take the face down pile. Also, I just think that this type of effect is very skill testing and fun. Like, I like it. I think it will be interesting to play with and against the card. And who knows, maybe ring tempting you is actually what you'll end up using a lot. Like, imagine you play, you have your ring bearer, which is a 1/1 Death Shadow. You attack, they can't block, dress down, bam, 13 out of nowhere. Or even like crack your fetchland, Street Wraith, 6. It's still a lot of damage.
Okay. I have even better line. Imagine, play this card, then you play Snapcaster this. Snapcaster becomes a ring bearer, and then you can attack, unblockable, and draw this card. Nice.
Just
easy.
The best thing ever.
Oh, okay, that's so
that's
okay. Let's go.
I'm calling it. This is the best card in the set.
Okay.
It is not. It is not, of course. But I think it will be a good card for this specific role in some specific decks that won't, like, once again, it won't elevate them to something insane by its own. Like, it's basically the similar type of card to Forge Anew and Delighted Halfling, I think. For the certain group of decks, it will be good and will make the deck better, but those decks are worse than Yawgmoth and Hammer, probably.
Okay.
So, like...
And the card is worse than Forge Anew and Halfling.
I'm not sure. I think this card is pretty strong.
Okay, let's go to the another one.
Okay, the next card on our list is Reprieve, which is 1 and white, so 2 mana for an instant. Return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. So it's more or less remand with a bunch of upsides. It can go around uncounterable stuff. It can go around Veil of Summer. It's white, so we can't mystical dispute it. There is a bunch of payoffs for, like a bunch of advantages for this card. And I saw some people on Twitter, most notably Patrick Wu, who's a person who I don't think they won, but they top 8, or maybe they won the Canadian RC with Blue Eyed Lotus Field. They either won or were in the top 8 of that tournament.
Maybe.
Saying that they are testing for Barcelona and they are playing the Blue Eyed Narset deck because they are, they are handicapped by only playing Blue Eyed, and that the card is broken. That the creativity matchups becomes a buy because they can't Veil of Summer it. And it sounded very, very hyperbolic to me, especially because I think that one of the biggest reasons that Blue Eyed is not great is that it blows so hard against creativity. Because like, oh no, Red and 6, what can I do? Oh no, Teferi, what can I do? Oh no, 2/1/1 draw dwarves, what can I do? Can never deal with those dwarves. Like, come on.
Yeah. And like still the counter that doesn't counter things may be good. I can also see it a good, maybe not answer, like a good way to attack Cascade decks because
Like Remand was also always very good against Cascade.
Yeah,
so,
and now Hammer, for example, can play it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Is if it's better than Hallowed Moonlight or Gravecade or anything like this, I doubt it. But maybe if
I think it is.
Reprieve is better.
I think it's better than Hallowed Moonlight.
Too. Like it's wider, yeah. It can be.
It's wider. Like it essentially does close to the same thing against Rhinos. I think the biggest delta is Living End. But often it will be just good enough because you stop their Living End. And like it actually does. It's probably even not that. It might be better against Living End because even with Hallowed Moonlight, you still get your board draft against Living End, and this prevents the board wipe. It's better against creativity because you can stop creativity, but you can also stop whichever piece of interaction they have against you. I just think that this is also a card that is potentially main deckable if you really want to. Like you played main deck Spell Pierce. It is not as efficient as Spell Pierce. Of course, it costs 2 mana, but I think the biggest upside of this card is to make Hammer even more likely to play mono white. Like your biggest reason to splash blue was to combat Cascade decks. Now you don't need to do that even more than you didn't need to do that before. So I
have to draw these cards, etc. The question that like it's obviously at least okay versus Cascade. The question is how the card will be good in other somewhat fair matchups. Yeah, like Creativity, right? I don't feel it's that good versus Murktide, although like remanding a Murktide can be a quite good thing to do. So
like it is serviceable against Murktide. If you play it in your main deck, I wouldn't board it in against Murktide, but if for some reason I wanted to play it in my main deck, it fairly often will be okay versus Murktide.
Yeah, I wouldn't cringe to draw it.
Definitely not.
So we'll see. The card has some upsides compared to the regular remand, and maybe it will help the white color be better. Of course, there are other decks that outside Hammer that can play it, or they are hiding somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe something like Zoo, I don't know.
Maybe, although Zoo has high mana curve, so adding 2 mana answers is not exactly what you want to do. So we'll see. So far, the card has a good text.
Next up, we have a card that was the biggest miss of the set because it could have just been called Full of a Took, and it's called Stern Scolding. At least it has Full of the Took in the flavor text. It's Full of a Took. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, of course, because, well, of course, like for obvious reasons that I don't have to mention here. Okay, so the card itself is a 1 mana. So 1 aqua, blue mana for an instant. Counter target creature spell with power 2 or less or toughness 2 or less. So I think in the design of this set, at the beginning, it was only one of those. It was only
power.
Only power,
And-
I think so, yeah.
And like the trick is that Aspiring Spike was a consultant.
And you wanted
of
to counter
set.
Solitude.
No, to counter Lurus.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
So thanks to Lurus, the card has.
Thanks to Lurus, it can
toughness
counter Solitude
clause.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you are a blue mage. Do you feel that the card can be used in the sideboards, or is it
Yes.
just?
It is not a main
Just-
deckable card at this point.
Of
in
course,
Modern.
of course.
Because Cascade and because Creativity. So against like 3 of the top 6-ish, 7-ish, like wherever you want to put living in. But I think Rhinos and Cascade and Creativity are 2 of the most popular and best 3 or 4 decks right now. So you can't main deck it any more than you can main deck. I don't know. Fucking. Even Spellsnare is better. Because Spellsnare is actually okay against Creativity. And it can get those damned Fire Ices. And Petty Thefts against. Which are actually like relevant. Petty Theft on your Merchant is actually relevant against Rhinos. I think it's a decent sideboard card. Especially. Like, I think countering Solitude for 1 mana might be good for many decks.
So would you say it in versus blue-white, for example, with Solitudes?
I don't know. More.
Or
I was
versus
thinking more about
elementals?
like elementals.
Yeah, with Reason Reef.
This kind of
the
decks.
problem is
It counters
cavern, yeah?
It counters everything in Yawgmoth. It counters Yawgmoth and it counters Greased. So it counters everything. Because Grease is a 1/1 on the stack. For the very same reason that Spell Pierce is bad against Grease, this card actually counters Greased.
Finally.
It basically counters everything Sans, Endurance, and Tutors in their deck. So I think it's a very good card against Yawgmoth.
Do you feel that this will be a weapon of choice for Merc-type players to combat Yawgmoth?
Might be. It also counters everything in Hammer for 1 mana, which I think is good. Like, I think this card is very good. Yeah, but like any creature. Like Spellsnare was good against them because it counters Paladin and Stoneforge Mystic, and this also counters, I don't know, Esper Sentinel on the play for 1 mana, which is like it's very hard to trade with Sentinel for 1 mana. I wish that it said 3 or less than not 2 or less.
What would it change?
Merctide Regent is free on the stack.
Ooh, wow, that would be good. Okay, but
And then you would counter all the elementals as well. I think that would be like
yeah, countering Fury would be good. Yeah,
Fury, Grief. Like you can counter Grief anyways.
Yeah.
Fury, Endurance, Merctide Regent. I think it would be still. I can imagine a world in which when they designed the set, they weren't aware of how good Creativity and Cascade will be. So if it says 3 or less, it actually counters basically every relevant creature in the format that you want to cast. And it would... I could see it being a bit too good. But yeah, with the information we have now, I would like to see it being 3 or less. Just because, yeah, I think it would be okay. Overall, I think it's a card that I wouldn't be too surprised to see. Especially if decks with cards like Snapcaster Mage and like in general there's a large subset of decks that like their sideboard to be a lot of cheap instant sorceries. Like any deck that uses Snapcaster Mage put an extra premium on having cheap instants or sorceries in their sideboard as a good target. Similarly to how Phoenix in Pioneer wants to have like Rending Volleys and Ether Gusts and I don't know, Mystical Disputes, those type of like cheap spells that can fuel their main plan. So for those decks, I think that this card goes up in value, and I can see it being okay, but mostly as a sideboard card once again.
Okay, moving forward.
Yep.
Now we have a we like all these cards we were talking about are somewhat playable, and we most likely see some play at least in the first few months of the format.
Yeah, and now we are moving to like more questionable cards. I mean, cards that need something to go well,
or they don't have any good shell yet.
Yep.
Because like
the first.
okay,
yeah.
Go on.
The first one of those is Council's Deliberation. It's a 2-mana instant, 1 and a blue. It says draw a card, and it has a trigger. Whenever you scry and if you control an island, you might exile Council Deliberation from your graveyard. If you do, draw a card. So basically, you never want to cast this card. So you need some ways to bin it. First things that comes to mind are Ledger Shredder and Fable, basically. And then you have ways to scry your deck, which mostly means opt. I can't really think of any other scry cards that are good.
Skrylands, let's go.
You can play Rivendell if you have a lot of ring bearers, because then it will be untapped.
Yeah, overall, I added it to the list mostly because this is an effect that in the right deck it can draw a card for free.
Yeah, because it costs 0 mana and 0 cards to draw a card, which is always a very potentially powerful thing. So
let's just keep it in mind that it exists and move on. Because like talking about the possible shell that does not exist is...
Yeah, it's basically need to be a country Ledger Shredder deck, in my opinion, where you have Shredders, you have Considers and Opt, so you can bin it with Shredder, you can bin it with Consider, then you trigger it with Opt. Yep, basically something like that. So, yep. Next up, we have Cast Into the Fire, which is a 1 and a red for an instant. It has choose one. Either you exile target artifact, or that's the second one. And the first one is it deals 1 damage to up to 2 target creatures.
Yes, it's an instant. So basically, it's a better upgrade. Better, like higher.
It's not a better upgrade.
Yeah.
Not even close to being better upgrade, I think. You can't kill Shredder with it. You can't kill...
You can kill 2 creatures.
You can, but what decks are you bringing it in that you want to kill a bunch of creatures against? Basically only Hammer.
Question. I also can see... Hammer is a good one. I also see it in Underworld Breach Fair decks, maybe.
Yeah, like... To me, the large part of upgrade was always that you can have it in your sideboard to like bring against artifact decks and kill Chalice and kill Sword of Fire and Ice and stuff like that against Hammer. But also you can just bring it into Murktide Mirror and kill their creatures. And while this can kill Ragavan, it can't kill Delirium DRC. It can't kill Shredder. It's just a much worse removal spell than Upgrade is, I think, for creatures.
Okay, so unless the format is full of 1/1s, then we shouldn't...
I think this card will be very good in Pauper.
Oh, in Pauper.
Because it exiles artifact lands, and it can kill like 2/1s from Kuldotar's Rebirth and stuff like that. Like there's a kind of similar card in Pauper already seeing play. It's called Smash to Dust, I think. It's 1 and a red. I think it's a sorcery as well. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's sorcery. It's choose 1, destroy target artifact, deal 1 damage to every creature without flying target player's control, and destroy target creature with defender, something like that. So it's a very similar card that sees play in Pauper. So yeah. Okay, then we have Elven Farsight, which is a 1 green for a sorcery, scry free, then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a creature, you draw a card.
So
why is it deck? Why?
There isn't... So
why is it on the list? Just tell me.
It's a good country.
No, I'm just trying to phase you. That's fine. Like, well, tell me. I'm curious, but I'm not trying to like, I don't know, bully you or something.
Like sadly, there isn't a deck that can use it effectively. I can see it being quite a good addition to something like Devoted Druid deck, because in very often it will be somewhat close to preordain. If you can scry 2, like draw something, then still scry 2 that you want to do, that you want to have at the top, or maybe not. So the card, in my opinion, has a potential, but there aren't any good decks. Like
Yes, basically-
Heliod and Devoted Druid are the only 2 green decks that have a lot of creatures that may make this card good enough to see play.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit wary.
Sorry?
I'm definitely a bit wary when it comes to to green cantrips. I remember Abundant Harvest being a flop as well. Because decks that traditionally want cantrip aren't green, and they aren't creature decks for the most part. But yeah, I can see a very specific subset. Maybe, I don't know, Yawgmoth.
Maybe, but
Probably not.
Like Grist is a plains. No,
It is a creature in a deck.
Yeah, so maybe. Overall, the ceiling of this card, like being a preordain, maybe good.
Oh, it's a stronger preordain. The ceiling is stronger preordain.
True. Yeah. So, it's too bad that there isn't any creature that can use it effectively.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
We'll see.
Next up, we have 2 different Samwise cards. The first one is Samwise Gamgee, which is green and the white for a legendary creature, Halfling something.
Peasant.
Halfling what?
Peasant.
Peasant. Okay.
Peasant.
Oh, regular wieśniak. We would say in Poland. Regular wieśniak. I think it's a 2/2. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a food.
Okay. Another non-token creature.
Another non-token creature. Yeah. And then sacrifice 3 food tokens, return target historic card from your graveyard to your hand.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
And why the card is on the list? It combos quite well with Cloudron Familiar, assuming you have a sacrifice outlet too. So it's a 3-card combo to deal infinite damage, thanks to the card. Still, it's a 3-card combo with creatures, so most likely not be good enough for Modern. I would like to play it in Pioneer though, but you know.
I think it's also... what I like about it is that it's a 1-card combo. Like, it's a very compact kill package for your favorite green 7-drop, Protean Hulk.
Nice. Okay,
If you have 2 Cauldron Familiars, you can even play around removal spells with it. So also, like, it's either a Protean Hulk deck or an Urza's Saga Asmo deck, or both.
both.
Like, there are those like Asmo Goryo decks with Atraxa. You can just be an Asmo Goryo deck with Protean Hulk instead of Atraxa.
Add 5 dead cards to the deck. That's already struggling for space.
Yeah, what I like about Samwise is that it can get back your Urza's Saga, which seems like a fairly strong thing to get back. So who knows?
If you play Urza's Saga and the card that costs green and white in the deck, can be problem.
That's not the best combo in the world, sure.
Okay, another Samwise?
Yeah, the other Samwise is Samwise the Stouthearted, and that's the card that I added to the list, and I also have to pull it up because I don't remember the exact text of it, which is kind of embarrassing. I know it's a 2-mana creature with flash. I think it's a 2/1, and whenever it enters the battlefield, or when it enters the battlefield, choose up to 1 target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn. You get it back into your hand, and the ring tempts you. So it's a way to like get back your fetch lands or your Mishra's Bubble. It costs 2 mana. It has flash. If the ring tempts you is good, then it's an initial upside of that. It's a card that if the ring tempts you is a good enough mechanic to play, it has a fairly low opportunity cost for doing a bunch of small things that can amount to something bigger.
Cool.
Okay. Next up, we have Flame of Anor, which is a card that I'm very mad about existing in its current form. Because it's a 1 blue-red, so 3 mana total for an instant. Choose 1 if you control a wizard. Choose 2. It's draw a card, deal 5 damage to a creature, and destroy target artifact. And why am I mad? Because it doesn't deal damage to planeswalkers. And why doesn't it deal damage to planeswalkers? Because we are in Middle-earth, and there are no planeswalkers in Middle-earth. So for the lore, it is true. That's why it doesn't deal damage to planeswalkers. Because on Middle-earth, there are no planeswalkers. So if this was printed in any regular set, I know that's 100% because Canister was consulting on this set, and they told him that, and he was like, "Well, can you make it worded in any ways that lets you attack planeswalkers with it, like deal damage planeswalkers with, like any non-player target, something like that?" And they're like, "No, dude, sorry," and why can't you just deal damage to players? Would it be too strong if you can deal 5 damage to a player for 3 mana? Like, I can see this Snapcaster dealing 10 damage to face being kinda strong, okay?
It's 5 mana.
It is 3 mana. Like, it's just an expensive card. And what's funny, like, Canister argued for this card being better, while Aspiring Spike said, no, 5 damage is way too much. Deal 4 damage to a creature. 5 damage is way too much. That's what Canister told me. So,
okay, that's
whenever you think that one of those cards is too weak for Modern, you have 2 people to blame for it. You know who?
As Andrew Brown, of course.
Yes.
And Aspiring Spike.
Of course, yes.
Well, easy.
They just hate Magic players. That's all it is.
Yeah, like 5 damage, way too much. Maybe from limited purposes, but it's a rare, multicolored.
It's a multicolored rare. I don't think you care that much about limited in that regard. So, especially with how broken rares are for limited these days sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Like overall, I think this is a card that might see Modern play in under very specific circumstances, where you want this type of draw to that does something else card, and you are playing Murktide, and you are relying too heavy on Blood Moon to play Archmage's Charm. I think that's actually like a place in which you want to use this card. It's very narrow, of course, but just please don't put fucking Delver of Secrets into your deck for the wizard purposes or something like that. Just don't do that, okay?
Is Delver of Secrets a wizard once it flips?
No, then it's Human Insect, I believe.
So it's even worse.
Yeah, it's either... Yeah, I think it's Human Insect on the other side. It's definitely not... Yeah, I think it's... Yeah. Because it doesn't work with Wizard's Lighting on the other side. Okay. Then we have lands, the legendary lands that require you to have a legendary creature to come into play on top. And the 2 that I single out are Barad-dûr and the Shire. So Barad-dûr is a black... It taps for black mana. It enters the battlefield untapped. It enters tapped unless you have a legendary creature. And it has X black tap Amass Orcs X. Activate only if a creature died this turn. So I think that having this type of effect on a land is a very strong effect. Because it's a strong thing for a land, a card you want in your deck anyways to have. But it's a shitty land.
If I amass Orcs X and X is 0, do I trigger Mayhem Devil?
Yes.
Okay, so I can see this being good in Asmo decks with Mayhem Devin.
Like, if you have, once again, if the ring tempts you is good and you have your legendary Snapcaster mages very often, then who knows? But like, it's just a very high. I think that the floor for lands to be worthy additions is pretty low compared to other cards because you need lands in your deck anyways, and especially like mono-colored decks or like two-colored decks, I can see this being okay. And then the other one on the list is Shire, which is a green one. It produces green mana, and then it has, I think, 1 and a green, tap it, and tap an untapped creature you control, create a food token.
Yes.
And there are many decks that like Academy Manufacturer or Asmo decks, which is conveniently a legendary creature for the purposes of those lands. Like, it's, once again, kind of low opportunity cost, some upside kind of card that you can just play in those decks.
Cool.
Okay. And the last one is the honorary card for the... I wish this set would be Pioneer Legal Crew. And this card is the Flowering of the White Tree, which is a enchantment, legendary enchantment for all that matter, for green and white and white, double white. It says legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have ward 1, and non-legendary creatures you control get +1/+1. So with this Crusade, or like Honor of the Pure type of effect, for all your creatures, and if you have legendaries, it's significantly better. Like, imagine this being legal in Pioneer Humans. Your Talia now costs 3 to Fire Impulse. Adeline is virtually unkillable. Like, I think this card would be really, really good in that deck.
Yeah, I can also see building the deck around the tree.
Yeah, even
like,
for modern purposes, yeah.
Like, if you combine this, you can even combine Mox Amber. All of a sudden, you'll have enough legend payoffs to make it worth playing.
Sadly, it doesn't enable Mox Amber for mana, but
but like I saw decks filled with mediocre 1 mana legends only to make Mox Amber like.
What are some mediocre 1 mana legends?
Oh, like Theos.
There is one. If you say it's mediocre, I will come to Warsaw this weekend and beat the shit out of you. So be careful.
You will come to Warsaw anyway, so.
That's not in the scope of this discussion. Any other legends that come to mind, Sodek?
There's a Zurgo, of course.
Zurgo is whatever.
Okay, so... Okay, I feel I'm safe now. What's the legend?
I'm not gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you on weekend.
Please.
It's Isamaru, of course.
Hold of Konda?
Yes.
Oh, 1 mana 2/2. That's a good patch.
It is a good card, and now you're safe from Savage beating that I would definitely deliver to you. Because I've been in many fights in my life. I was actually in 0 fights in my life, so.
0 fights. Easy. And I respect Isamaru as a card. So, like, I really like Extended Boros, so
No, Polish deck, so of course you like it.
Of course, easy.
Alrighty. So, this is all we wanted to talk about regarding new cards. Some of our thoughts on Flowering of the White Tree might be cut out because of, well, live stuff, but do you really care about this card in modern context? I don't. So
I don't too, so.
Or maybe it's the one card that you needed to make Squadron Hawk playable. Who knows?
I feel that, like, maybe if this... Remember this mono white deck with...
Force of Virtue, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the way.
Imagine that. Turn 2 Frodo. Turn 3 sword equipped to Frodo. For free. Attack. Trigger sword. Feast and Famine. So you untap your lands. Play Flowering of White Tree post-combat, of course. Then you can go like Squadron Hawk, get more Squadron Hawks. Your creatures are 2/2 now, which is a lot better than 1/1. Nah, I think this deck is still bad, but like there's another card for this archetype which is like strong for it.
Okay. So,
like, I think that we have a high probability of being right when it comes to how good the set is. There is a small probability we are wrong, of course, as always. But I would be quite surprised if there's a card that we completely slept on in this set that is good. I guess one card I wanted to mention as well is Rosie Cotton of the White Lane, which is a card similar to Samwise. It combos with Scary Oak. Like whenever Rosie Cotton or when Rosie Cotton of South Lane enters the battlefield, create a food token, and whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosie. And Scary Oak is the one that when it evolves, you create a squirrel. Or whenever you put a counter on it, it creates a squirrel. So it's a 2-card combo to make infinite squirrels. It's still like two card creature combo, which is like Heliod, which is not very good these days. So yeah, those decks are just not very good, but maybe there is something. So yeah, I just don't think that there will be anything too surprising for us in the set regarding Constructed.
For I don't know, commander purposes, Dawn of the New Age is quite expensive at the moment. But in my opinion, it's mostly because of commander. I can not see it being good in modern by any means.
Yep. Okay.
I just don't see it.
So that's it.
Yeah. So can we read at least these top cards that we'll see play again?
Okay. Yeah. One Ring, Delighted Halfling, Forge Anew, Cyclers, especially the blue one, Orcish Bowmasters, Sauron's Ransom, Reprieve, and Stern Scolding. Those are the cards that we expect to see in some quantities in Modern in the coming weeks. Probably the cards from the second part of the list also in the coming weeks because people will experiment with new things. But yeah, there is a Pro Tour, Modern Pro Tour in 5.5 weeks, I think. I'll be going to Barcelona. Sotek might be going to Barcelona as well. And even though we are not playing the PT, we'll be there. If you're from States or any other part of the world and you don't get to see us too often, you can come by, say hi, we'll definitely remind you many times about the PT in the coming weeks. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching us. Everything important is in the link, in the description down below. Links to our website, Twitch streams, Twitter, yada. And next time you see us, we'll probably be discussing modern metagame. That's the most likely topic of our new video, unless we do some sort of retrospective on how wrong or how right we were about lot cards like in 2 weeks or so. Okay, so take care. Thanks for watching and bye-bye.
See ya.